Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to our last day of the Pro Singer Career Accelerator Masterclass series. Happy to see you all here. And today is our Ask Me Anything Q&A day. Your questions answered. Let's get clear on the things that you have been wanting to know that maybe I have not gone over. Um, but first, I'm curious, how great was yesterday? Like, did you guys see some patterns mirrored back to you in the form of the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset? Like, did any of you have an aha and you're like, wow, I see that about my thinking and about the way I've been engaging with my voice, my career, my journey, right? Curious, how many of you related to Darlene? How great was hearing from her? She is like become a mindset ninja throughout this process. So, listening to Darlene, noticing these ways fixed mindset has creeped in and sabotaged you. Did anybody have a breakthrough on that yesterday? Did anybody have a breakthrough on their fixed mindset versus their their growth mindset? Would anybody like to just unmute and share what breakthrough you had? I feel like Divine, you said you had a breakthrough, particularly on empowering versus disempowering. Would you care to just share what that was for you and go ahead and unmute? You're still muted.
Sorry, try now.
Okay.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, so I was just thinking about what I noticed. I think we have language that we use unconsciously to describe our situation or to describe our current circumstances.
Mhm.
And I realized how the battle can almost be lost before you even begin if we're using words that disempower our sense of agency or our sense to actually the power that we have to change our situation.
Yeah.
So that was really powerful. I actually thought about that a lot last night, and even just thinking about like raising funds for this intensive program. And if you tell yourself you can't raise it, it's not possible.
Right, then you won't. No, I think that
Exactly.
the metaphor you just gave, it's like you've lost the battle before you even stepped onto the field. Like,
Exactly.
is absolutely true. There's a famous quote by, I believe it was Henry Ford, who said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right.
Mm.
And that's exactly what you were just saying. So I'm really glad that you had that awareness of like, wow, I need to look at the things I'm telling myself because in that way, it's like what we talked about on Saturday. You have this desire, this thing you want to create, and then you're calling it in and then you're pushing it away at the exact same time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you had that awareness. Finn, I saw you put in the chat. You had to fight fixed mindset versus growth mindset this morning. Do you want to share what that was? And you can go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I woke up kind of thinking I can't do this. And I
What
had
was
to
the
work my
this?
way
Like,
through it.
have what's the this? Like the career that I want, the sound that what's the this?
It's pursuing I haven't defined where my career is going to go,
Hmm.
but it's the pursuing the perfection in my voice and my acting.
Hmm.
Uh, so I had to, because that's a real strong feeling, and I had to work through that.
Well, and if I can mirror some language back to you, when I said, what's the this? You said, I can't do this. And that this was pursuing the perfection in my career in acting. Can I mirror something back to you? You're right. You can't do that because there's no such thing as perfect. You can't
Well,
pursue
I know
perfection.
that the whole it's pursuing it is the game.
I
You're never
know,
going to be perfect.
but
You can't
what
stop doing it.
true. And all of that is true. And we have to be so aware of what we're saying, exactly to like what Javon said, right? Because what came out of your mouth was pursuing perfection. Even though intellectually, I know, Finn, I know you know intellectually that there's no such thing as perfect. And yet, in response to that question, old thinking went to what I want to do is pursue perfection. But like, that's always why it feels bad because like that's never attainable because it doesn't exist, right? So like
That's yes.
so starting to just like reframe that even in your mind of noticing, oh my God, I said that. And that's not even what I mean, but I said that. And so that means it's like it's in there somewhere. And so it's like, oh, wow, let me really be aware of like the things that I'm saying because that has an effect in so many ways. Because it's really hard to be in growth when you're growing to pursue something that like intellectually doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
And yet we're still striving for
Well,
that, right?
what would be a better way of framing that? Look, me, what I'm looking at is a lifestyle and a it's not, yeah, I guess pursuing perfection, but what would be a different way of what I'm trying to say? It's like
Right.
what would a priest entering the priesthood, what would he think? I honestly think that the way to approach that is with that undivided attention.
Well, but
You know, that
undivided attention to what? Not to perfection, because that you will forever be disappointed because the bar will forever be moving and you will never reach it because it doesn't exist. So, undivided attention and commitment and seriousness, that's fantastic and that's important and you want that. But to what end, right? Can't be perfection. So, let's think of something that feels different than
well,
that.
that's
So,
what I mean.
my question.
If you're looking for perfection, you're always moving that bar, which is what you want to do. You want to
No, you
always
don't.
keep striving
Well,
for
here, I
better
guess.
than you were.
Okay, so I understand that. And I do appreciate what you're saying. And so on the one hand, we always want to be exploring, expanding, growing. This instrument that we have is our body. It's always changing. We never arrive. It's always that journey, right? But on the other hand, um, the idea of striving, like when you're striving for something, what is the energy behind that for you?
What do you mean? Like, what's the energy
Well,
behind?
like what is
It's
the energy behind striving? Like when I think of striving, I think of reaching for something that it's reaching. It's constant trying. It to me personally, it
correct.
might feel different to you, but like
Yeah, no,
striving
yeah,
doesn't always feel good to me. Striving doesn't feel always
yeah.
feel good. And so here's my question to you. Instead of like wanting to move towards perfection, right? Because perfection is never the answer anyway, not only because it doesn't exist, but because what you think is a perfect performance. Everybody out there has a different definition of what that perfect is anyway, and you can never be everything to all of them. And so it's a losing game for so many reasons. So instead of like
Right.
that being the goal, let me ask you this. Let's say that you worked with us, okay? Just an imaginary scenario. You came in, you worked with us. We annihilated all of the issues. You felt confident, you felt like you could rely on your voice, you knew how to tap into your potential and your artistry. Like all of the issues had been fixed and you feel like you're on fire, okay? When you feel that way, what would light you up? What would you want to create? What would you want to do with
One,
like, you know what I
well,
mean?
either produce a show, or one of my goals is to audition for a Broadway show. I got my equity card, but I haven't done an equity show.
Okay.
So it
So
would be
so
audition for Broadway shows.
okay. So instead of the target being perfection, the target is I want to do an equity show. I want to be able to make equity money, be on an equity stage, and be able to have that experience in my life at that level. That's a target that is
Right.
measurable. It is right because that's the thing. Like in order to reach a target, the target needs to be measurable. The target needs to have progressive milestones to get there. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah,
if that's the
yeah,
target, to be able to stand on an equity stage in an equity role singing, right? Then it's like, okay, then let me reverse engineer that. What needs to happen in order for that to be the case? And you start to look, okay, these are the things that I need to work on. These are the skills I need. These are the circumstances I need. I might need better agents. I might need to be able to learn how to audition better. I might need to work on my voice so I can stand out from the competition better, whatever that is. But now there's an actual tangible target that's actionable, that has like milestones that, doesn't seem so like perfection. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, one of my goals this year is to get an agent. I never had one because
All
I
right.
took a 40-year break. So
Okay. So this
now
is
it's
where I say, this is where I say, Finn, get on my call calendar. Let's figure this shit out, okay? Book a call with me. Whether you come in and do the program or you don't, there's things that I think will help you that I can share with you that like will help you to feel a little bit better about the path. Cool? Will you do that? Get on my
yeah.
calendar.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, guys, so many things yesterday around noticing fixed mindset, growth mindset creeping in, right? And I love that you guys have been thinking about this stuff. And thank you, Javon. Thank you, Finn, for sharing like how those things have been showing up. So a reminder of our housekeeping for today, same as it is. If you have any additional questions, put them in the chat. We're going to be doing all of our Q&A today. So if you do want to coach and something that you want me to hear in terms of like, am I doing this right, Arden, like with the technique and stuff, just make sure that you have your original sound switched to on. All right. And oh, by the way, congratulations to Tracy Davis and to Sunny Lehrhoff on their enrollments in the intensive. Woo woo! Excited to work with you guys. Cannot wait. Excited to speak with those of you who have booked a call. All right. So let's get into our bonus session. So a bunch of people who weren't able to be here today, and some of you who are emailed questions to us through Ashley, through me, whatever. And a lot of you had similar questions, and some of them were about the training program. So I just want to like knock those out at the start here, so then we can get to the technique questions and stuff. So some of you asked, when are the intensive program classes, days and times? What about conflicts if you have to miss a session due to work or stuff like that? And this is all on our website, but I'm happy to put it in the chat for you too. So here, this is when the intensive studio classes and mindset calls are. I just put it in the chat so you guys can see. They're Tuesdays and Thursdays. They're 90 minutes. Our group mindset call is on Fridays. It's 60 minutes. All of our studio classes and mindset calls, everything, we record everything just like we do in here. So if you have to miss or come late or whatever, you always have the recording. You never miss the training. But like I tell everyone, it is your most important priority. It's your most important time with me. It's when I have eyes and ears on you. And it is only 4 months of your life. So do whatever you need to do to make it a priority. But if something comes up and you do have to miss, you do have the recording. So, you won't miss. If you do have conflicts, travel, stuff like that, if it's something that's already planned that, can't be changed, okay, we deal with it. We'll pause you. If a big life thing happens, I had a singer who lost his wife in the program. We just pause. If you I had a singer who had a big health issue. Actually, you guys, those of you who came to our November workshop, you met her. Her name is Jess. She had a big health crisis, and for 3 months she had to pause the program. So if stuff like that comes, we just pause. But you guys, momentum is really important when you're doing this work and you're doing this training. So we don't want to pause just for like any old reason, because you like have a doctor's appointment, or you decide you want to go to Vegas with your friend for her bachelorette party. Like, okay, but we're not pausing for that. Like, you're still doing the work. But if there's like a big life thing that you have planned, or you have something that's already been planned, like, we'll work with you around it. Okay. Second thing was, somebody asked, how big are the groups, and do we take time during each group for every singer? And am I the one who's actually coaching? Yes, I am the one who's actually coaching. You saw Judy, who's our mindset coach. Judy is actually coaching. Annie, who you met on Wednesday, is actually coaching. And I am in every studio class with you, okay? And the groups, we keep them nice and small. We never have more than like around 10-ish singers in the program at any time, because it's a lot of individual attention, and everyone who wants to sing in each class has a chance to sing in each class. A couple of you also asked, can I work with you privately in one-on-one voice lessons? And the answer is, at this point in time, no. I am only working with the singers in our intensive programs. I think my website still says that I am coaching that way, and you guys, my website is something that I need to update. I'm so busy with all of you guys in my programs and stuff that I haven't had a chance to update my website to say that I'm not doing that currently. But the reason I don't do it is because it just, like I said the other day, it doesn't get the same results as working in the program. And I want you guys to spend money on something that works instead of just getting a band-aid on a mosquito bite. And one-on-one lessons is a band-aid on a mosquito bite. It only addresses half the problem, which is why I don't do it. So yes, so you cannot work with me privately one-on-one. I don't work with singers outside the context of our programs. One or two of you asked, what happens if we join the training program and we change our mind? So if within the first 2 weeks of the program, you're coming to class and you're doing all the things and you're like, you know what? This isn't for me. Then what we do is we prorate you and we give you a full refund for the rest. We don't want anybody in the tribe who doesn't want to be there, because the community is really important. And, that energy of somebody who doesn't want to be there brings down the whole group. So if at any point in the first 2 weeks, you're like, this is not for me, we prorate you, we refund everything of the rest and part friends. But after the 2 weeks, you've been to like 5 studio classes, 2 mindset calls, you've had one-on-one mindset call, you've been to Technique Pod, you've done the training modules, you know what we're about. After that, we're in, no more refund. But within the first 2 weeks, we prorate you and we will refund if it's not for you. Because like I said, we don't want anybody there who doesn't want to be there. So you have nothing to lose. Now, that said, that's not an invitation to come in, dip your toe in the water, be like a fly on the wall, not really engage. No. That doesn't work. But if you show up, you play full out, you give 110%, you're doing your technique trainings, you're doing your thought exercises, and you're like, you know what, this is not my tribe, this is not for me, then no problem. Okay? The other thing, so a few of you asked, can I guarantee results? Okay, so let me just speak to that for a second. Can I guarantee results? No. I guarantee that this method works because I see it work every single day with the singers in our program. But this is a co-creation between us and you. And I cannot guarantee how you are going to show up. Only you can guarantee that. So I cannot guarantee your results for that very reason. But what I can guarantee is that if you do nothing, you will stay where you are. That I can absolutely guarantee. So just know that coming in to do this work is a co-creation between you, your effort, your coachability, your commitment level, your resourcefulness, and us, our expertise and our commitment and our, support towards you. And when those things come together, results happen. Okay. All right, let's get to some technique questions. So several of you submitted questions via the Facebook group. So I will approach those first. And then if we have other questions, we can also get to those. Okay. So Ava had some questions that she asked. So she asked if I could please speak a little bit more about what she called the pelvic tilt in relation to the breath support. Okay, so Eva, I think that's the first reason why you have a question, is because we're not talking about tilting the pelvis at all. It's not a pelvic tilt, and it has nothing to do with the bones of my pelvis, okay? So when I'm talking about the pelvic floor, okay, so I'm not talking about the bones of my pelvis. I'm talking about the pelvic floor, which is the muscles of the perineum. So the perineum are the muscles between the in the front where you pee and the in the back where you poop. Okay, women and men both have pelvic floor perineum muscles. Okay, and it's not about tilting these muscles at all. It's about being able to engage them in a way that supports the rest of the muscles in the lower abdomen that are involved in support in a way that helps those muscles to do what they need to do. So when we're talking about pelvic floor, what we want to do is we want to gently flex, gently bear down on pelvic floor. So it's the feeling that you have if you are pooping. If a woman is giving birth, she's engaging, bearing down, flexing down on her pelvic floor with her pelvic floor muscles. But it's not that forceful though, because if you're like giving birth, you're like, you're really pushing down on those muscles, like, and the whole rest of your body gets involved with it, which we do not want for singing. Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if like bearing down on pelvic floor and flexing pelvic floor muscles down is a 10, if you're giving birth, we want like a 4 or a 5 or maybe a 6 maximum. Okay. So that I hope can clear up confusion around pelvic floor. It is not a pelvic tilt. It is not your bones of your pelvis. It is the muscles of the perineum. Okay. And the reason why it's really helpful is because those muscles are connected intrinsically to the rest of the muscles of support. So if you put your hands on your obliques and you bear down on your pelvic floor, you will feel those muscles flex down and out in the exact manner that we want for apoyo, for the lean of those muscles of support. So it's just another way of helping to engage the entire container of support in the right way. Okay, the next question was, I want to ask about your vocabulary on flexing the muscles. As far as I know, the body only joints can flex, while muscles can either contract or relax. Do you mean that we should increase the pressure downward on the pelvis to counteract the relaxation of the diaphragm? Okay, so this is another question about the diaphragm. So yes, what we want, so the language, the reason that I use the word flex is because, as we were talking about in on the second day when we were talking about support, a lot of singers are very poorly informed about how to use the muscles of support. Okay, and so they contract them, they pull them up and in. Okay, and so to me, I mean, I don't know about joints or whatever she was, the other parts of the body, but what I do know is that when we talk about the dynamics of energy that we can use, we can flex, which is an expansion and an outward feeling of an extension, or we can contract, which is a pulling in and a contraction. So regardless of like the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the physiology of the musculature, what I do know is that we can make the muscles lean and flex this way, or we can make the muscles contract up and in this way. And what we want to do is we want to lean and flex down that way. So I choose the word flex because it implies expansion rather than contraction. And so to that end, you can lean and flex down and increase, like you said, pressure downward on the perineum, which is a flex and causes all of these muscles to move with it, which helps the diaphragm to stabilize and stay low and move slow. Or we can contract perineum and all the rest of the muscles. In when we talk about pelvic floor, what that looks like is pulling your perineum, your pelvic floor, up towards your belly button like you're trying not to pee. You guys know that sensation. You pull that up like you got to pee and there's no bathroom around and you're squeezing it up so that you don't pee, right? So that's like contracting and pulling those muscles up towards your belly button rather than the feeling of bearing down and flexing away from it. Because when we pull up and contract, it destabilizes the diaphragm. So that's why we can use pelvic floor to help those muscles all around in the container of support for stability. And so to that end, somebody was asking, we had a lot of pelvic floor questions. Should pelvic floor contract or relax on singing? So it should do neither. Contract means that you're going to pull your pelvic floor up towards your belly button. We do not want to do that. Having it be neutral might be okay for phrases that are not too long or not too high, but gently bearing down on it, we want to do when we sing for all the reasons that I just mentioned. Okay, so hopefully that answers all of the questions around pelvic floor. And Eva, I see you're just joining us, and I literally just answered all of your questions. I wasn't sure whether you were going to be with us live today or not. So, Eva, I just answered all of your questions. They will be there in the recording, in the replay for you.
The link wasn't working.
That's okay, but
Yeah.
it will all be there in the replay for you. So I just wanted you to know, so you will find it in the
Yeah,
replay.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so let me go down to the next question. Okay. Okay, Petra's question. So Petra has a question about the sale. So Petra says, I've been taught that raising the soft palate is mostly for head voice and the more classical styles of singing and not for mixed voice or more pop rock sounds. It sounded to me that together with the anchoring, it is a general concept. Did I get that right? Yes, Petra, you did get that right. So the higher we go in each register, whether we're going higher in head voice to the top of the range, or whether we're going higher in chest voice, which is not the top of our overall range, but it is the top of that register. The higher we go in each register, the more height that we want in our soft palate and the more anchor that we need in our support, okay? So it doesn't matter what register you're in. Soft palate stretch is not mostly for head voice. Singers who sing in chest voice without a nice high tilted soft palate sound like this. Amazing grace, how sweet. And because I have a cold, you can really hear how like nasal that sounds. Versus chest voice with nice high soft palate. Amazing grace. And you don't even hear my cold. How sweet the sound. And if I'm going to go higher in chest voice, if I'm going to be in chest mix, if I'm going to do what you would traditionally call belting, which I hate that term, that's another story, but what I call high chest voice or chest mix, how sweet the sound. Like if I'm really up there, what was I just working on with a singer the other day that was oh my God, the Wicked song. Tell them how I'm defy, that's high. That's really high soft palate up there, okay? Can't believe I forgot Defying Gravity. Like everyone's working on Defying Gravity right now because of the movie. Anyway, so all of this is to say, Petra, that you always want to be in that high tilty soft palate because it gives you that open, pingy, like resonance where we really hear all the beautiful overtones of your voice. When soft palate is down, it's dull and it's dead. And it can be nasal too. Okay. So I hope that like explains that. I see Petra, you're here. Did that explain that for you?
Yeah, it's just always taught differently. It's sort of it always said like when it's belting or when it's sort of like more poppy sounds that you do want this little bit of nasality in there, sort of, because otherwise it may sound too classical.
Right. So, and I get that, and I understand how that has, probably been a kind of a limiting belief for, a lot of teachers or a lot of singers in the past. So, in my experience and in my expertise, it is the shape of the soft palate that makes it classical versus pop, not the space. So if you can imagine the high soft palate as like the roof of the house, okay? Now, roofs can take many, and high roofs can take many different shapes. You can have a high domey roof. You can have a high roof that's like a gable, that's like a pitched roof, right? They both high, but they're different shapes. So, and this is more advanced technique. You have to know how to get and keep that nice high sail no matter what before we can even talk about this stuff, and you have to have anchored support. But just to kind of give you an idea, if I'm going to sing the same note, so let's say a C, okay? So, but a C above middle C, so C7, right? So that note I can sing in head voice, in a classical sounding head voice, or I can sing in head voice that's a much more poppy sounding head voice. Both are going to be head voice. Both are going to have a high soft palate, but the shape of that high soft palate will be different. So in classical, whatever. I need I. Oh, did you guys know today's Mozart's birthday? Let's do a little Mozart. So, Vedrai carino. So that's the C in my round. It feels to me like a very round, domey shape of my soft palate. Vedrai. Now, I can sing in my head voice, but with what feels to me more like a pitched, angular, anchored, tilting high soft palate. I don't know. Defying. That's my head voice. Defying. Like, do you hear the difference of like where I'm putting it?
Yeah.
Like, and so it's still both high, but one is like super domey and spinny, and the other is like pointed and like a gable, like high that way. So it's the shape that determines the timbre of the resonance, if it's going to be more classical or if it's going to be more pop, versus the height. We need height no matter what. You know, if you're what's the song that's so big now? The Chapel Rowan song. You can build 100 or kiss 100 boys in bars. You can build it. Do you guys know that song? Just to not stop the feeling. I am in my head voice, but I'm singing pop. I am in my head voice, and it's not opera. Like, listen to Chapel Rowan, okay? Versus I can do that. You can kiss 100 boys in bars. That's still my head voice. You can kiss 100 boys in bars. It's still high. It's just a different shape, okay?
Yeah, I got the concept. Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
That was fun. That was kind of fun to like
That's fun for me too.
go back and forth.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, let me go in the chat because I see some of you are putting in questions here. Okay, hang on. Let me look in here. Let's see. Kathy's asking, is it possible to sound a little more mature when singing instead of sounding 12 or 14? Well, if you're 12 or 14, then you should sound like you're 12 or 14. But if you're 40 or 50 or whatever, and you still feel like you sound 12 or 14, that to me, there's two issues here. One side of the issue is that an inner critic judgment? Like you actually just have a bright, light, young, beautiful sound, and you're judging it and you're telling yourself that it's wrong, bad, less than, not good, and not allowing for the truth of your sound to come forth. Is that could be part of an issue? Or perhaps what can make singers sound artificially young when they really have much more sound to more scope of sound is when they're closing off their sound. So they're not singing with the space that I was just talking to Petra about, and they're not singing with their support. So their container is very squat and very small because support's not fully moving through their body. Their sail is not fully pulling up, and so they have this very limited space to sing with. And I can make myself sound really young, even though I don't think that sounds very good. And the way that I'm doing that is by not supporting and squashing my sound. So I think the first thing that needs to happen is to ask a bit of a doubt-inducing question, like, does everybody think that I sound 12? Does everybody think that that's bad? Or is it just my own value judgment? And then to talk to your teacher, talk to your coaches about, are you opposing? Are you giving yourself the most scope and space for your full natural sound that your cords make to come out. So that's how I would answer that question, Kathy. Thank you for asking that. Kat, issues with my diaphragm getting stuck in freeze mode where it refuses to release and I can't take a full breath. Okay, so this one's for you, Kat. Do you want to come on camera for a sec? If you can't, that's okay. But
Yeah,
let me.
yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Hi, it's good to
Hi.
see you.
Good to see you too.
Okay, so the exercise the little like breathing thing that I want you to do is so you're gonna inhale, and then what you're gonna do is you're gonna exhale, and you're gonna completely do the opposite of what you would do for singing. You're literally gonna wring your breath out until your body is screaming at you, Cat, breathe. So it's gonna be like you're gonna blow all your air out, wring it all out, and then all I want you to focus on, I don't want you to focus on bringing air into your body. All I want you to focus on is like a cascade of release. So you're going to tell your body, release your belly, release your ribs, release your throat, release your jaw. Like everything just from the bottom up just releases. Okay. So can you stand? You want to try it?
Yeah.
Stand?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So you're going to blow your breath out, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it until there's nothing left. And then you're just going to release your body. Get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. And then release your body. Ah, yes.
Okay.
What did you notice about that?
I mean, I could feel the breath descend like down past here. But for me, I guess the issue is when I get into performance mode and I can feel the tension, and I will get achy like Sunday at like
yeah, because
performing.
That release is not happening.
It's not happening.
Right.
And
but you hold up. I know what you're going to tell me.
Yeah.
Which is that like, but why doesn't that happen? Like I need it to happen when I'm performing. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But you guys, the moment of performance is not the time to teach yourself something.
Yeah.
For all the reasons you understand, right? So we're like really teaching your body what it feels like to release on command, which is what you just did. You let it all out and then you told your body release. And it did. Okay. So now instead of squeezing all the air out like you just did, right? The bridge now is you're going to hiss. And you're going to hiss into the container of your support like you know how to do. And you're going to hiss now, not until you're dying, because when we were squeezing it out, I was like, don't breathe until your body is like, okay, breathe. You know what I mean? So now you're going to hiss and you're going to get rid of all your air until you're comfortably out of breath, where your body's like, I should probably breathe. I could go more, but I should probably breathe. Hiss it out, hiss it out, hiss it out, and then give your body the same direction. Release. But
Okay.
with the same cascade.
With the same
yes,
up.
release the
Got it.
belly, release the ribs, release the throat, release the jaw. That same like cascade of release, okay? Then you're going to do it on a lip trill. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah. Gotcha.
Do it on a lip trill until you're comfortably out of breath, and then give yourself that, and then pick a phrase from anything. And that's how you practice this release. Right now, in performance, your body it's not going to trust it at all because it has no experience doing that in any conscious, intentional way.
Right.
When you're practicing.
Okay.
So give it that experience. And then there might need to be a little mindset work, which is it's safe to release when I'm fill in the blank in an audition, in front of an audience. You know, like 50 stack, 50 reasons why it's safe to release even when I'm in front of an audience.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you.
question. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Reading in the chat any questions that have come in. So Tatiana was asking about the pelvic floor. Is this the same engagement you get while squatting? No. So when you're squatting, your pelvic floor may or may not be engaged. When you're squatting, your glutes are engaged. That's your butt muscle. And when you're squatting, your lower, core muscles are engaged for balance, but you're not bearing down. Generally, you're not bearing down on your pelvic floor when you're squatting. So you can engage your pelvic floor without any other part of your body moving at all. Like I'm bearing down on my pelvic floor right now, and you have no idea because it's an intrinsic internal engagement of those muscles. It's not something that you need to do anything externally like a squat or whatever to achieve, okay? It's literally just like the gentle bearing down if you were having a bowel movement. That's the feeling, okay? Okay, good question. Okay, Marinelle, how do we find mixed voice? Oh, that's a larger question. Okay, glad you asked it though, because I think a lot of people wonder. So, finding a mix, guys, is number one, absolutely dependent on the foundation of your support and the foundation of your opposition. So number one, no singer will be able to find much of a reliable mix without anchor and sail working in opposition for them at all times. So that's just like foundational number one. So like in the intensive program, like we do work on mix, but it's not something that we work on right away because we have to set these foundations first. Once these are set, then it becomes much easier to mix, and it's not something that a singer has to overthink. But there is one thing that tends to massively get in the way of a singer being able to mix, and that is when one register of their voice is overpowers the other. So what I mean by that is, well, let me rewind. If you think of things that are, good mixes, like a good equal parts, right? Like the analogy that I like to use is, you guys know the drink at Arnold Palmer, right? It's lemonade and iced tea. And for me, personally, the best Arnold Palmer is equal parts lemonade and iced tea, like 50-50, equal parts lemonade and iced tea. And if you have too much lemonade, it overpowers the iced tea, and I don't think it's as good. And if you have too much iced tea, it overpowers the lemonade, and then it's like, feels like it's watered down. It's not as good. So equal parts, right? So mixed voice is very much the same way. We need to have a head voice that, so that's so funny, you guys, because usually to me, my left hand is like lower because on the piano, the scale goes down that way. And I just did head voice over here, which is interesting. Sorry, that was a little squirrel tangent. Okay, chest voice. If chest voice is equally as strong and as trained and as reliable and as powerful as head voice, then when a singer has their anchor and their sail working for them, they get a really easy mix. They don't have to think about it very much. They are in the power of their chest voice with the height and shape of their head voice, and both are equally as strong and can mix beautifully. But most singers have trouble mixing because one of their registers is stronger and one of their registers is weaker. So most singers have a more stronger chest voice because what they've been doing is they've been pushing their chest voice up as high as they can possibly go with their chest voice, because they don't have a very strong head voice, because they've never worked their head voice. They've never worked their technique, their support, their resonance space around their head voice. And so they're insecure around their head voice, so they don't generally use it because it feels weaker to them. It's airier to them because they have never, it's just like anything else. Like if you go to the gym and you lift a 1 pound weight, you're not going to get very strong. They're not using that much. So what happens is it's not very strong. They don't have good support around it, so they don't use it. And what they end up doing is just continuing to push their chest voice up. And then there's like a chasm, right? And it feels like two different voices. There's this massive, strong, belty chest voice, and then it like goes into no man's land up into the rest of their head voice range. Because they never use their head voice, it's not strong, it's not strengthened. They just continue to default to pushing their chest. And there are other singers who have the opposite problem. A lot of opera singers have this issue where their head voice is really trained, it's really strong, it's really powerful, and they feel very insecure in their chest voice. They don't know how to support their chest voice. They don't know, because they don't coach, generally, they don't coach classical singers in their chest voice. And so they feel really insecure down there, and they don't support it the way they should. And so they just end up singing head voice as low as they can, and then they don't use chest voice. Either one of these scenarios, if a singer has one register that's, better trained and more stronger than the other, there can't be a mix. Because for a singer, for example, who doesn't use their head voice hardly, who has a weak head voice, who doesn't rely on it, and they've just been pushing their chest voice, if they go to mix, that chest voice is going to overpower head voice every single time, and there is no mix. There can't be that, sorry, I have a hair. There can't be that equal parts head and chest blend, because head register will always be overpowered by chest in that place because the singer hasn't strengthened that part of their voice, and vice versa for singers whose head voice is overpowering chest register because they don't use chest register. So to really start to learn how to mix, you have to be able to have equally strong chest and head register, like through, so as you're moving through the scale, whatever, you have no idea where I transitioned because I know how to be strong and strength and support in my chest, and I know how to be strong and strengthened and support in my head, so that when I go to mix and when I go to move through the register, I'm able to blend them seamlessly. Now you might be like, well, how do you blend them seamlessly? But that's the thing, is it just happens. You don't have to overthink it when all registers of your voice are equally as strong and supported in that foundation of opposition. So I can be in the strength of my chest voice with the height and shape of my head voice because I know how to do both of those things independently so that I can bring them together. Does that make sense? I hope. Because that was a good question, Marinelle. Kat, I saw that you were like raising your hand to ask a question about that though. Were you
Just all head voice, no chest voice. That's all.
Oh, you were like
strong.
resonating. You were like, yeah, that's me. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, but partially it's because when singers like that, it's like you have to use the other register, because if you feel like super confident, oh yeah, my head voice is great, but then you don't use your chest register, then that register will never get strong ever. It's like that, if you continue to just lift a 1 pound weight, you're never going to build that muscle. So when you're in your vocal exercises and you're down lower, it doesn't even have to be pushing chest voice high at all. I'm just talking about like at the bottom of the staff. Like when you're at the bottom of the staff, it's like E flat, D, right? Like force yourself to go back to chest voice. But when you go back to chest voice, make sure that your support and your sail continues to do what it would do when you were in head voice. It's the same. That doesn't change no matter what register we're in. Good question. Okay. Holly, can you explain how to get more volume louder without pushing the sound and straining the throat? Even with support and muscle engaged, singers can still strain to sing louder. Does it have it to do with jaw? Okay. So here's the thing, Holly. The way that most singers achieve loud is by pushing more air through their cords, and that is what tires you out. So I'm going to lovingly disagree with the fact that even with supported muscles engaged, singers can still strain to sing louder. That's not true. If you're straining, you're not supporting. Those things are mutually exclusive, okay? So if your supportive muscles are engaged and you are not pushing, you will not strain. Okay? It's just that's just one of those things. If you are feeling like you're engaging muscles but you're still straining, then you're engaging the muscles the wrong way. You're contracting and pushing instead of flexing and leaning, right? So, good question. Alexa, what's the best exercise to fix the 1-2 notes people struggle with that land between their chest and head voice in the break? Yes. Okay. So I totally feel you. And this goes right back to, Alexa, what I was talking about mixing. Okay. So those 1-2 notes, what happens is in the moment, like you said, I'm good above it and I'm good below it. But in the moment of those few notes that you're calling the break, right? Which, by the way, change your language. Change your language. Because if you think of it as a break, like what's the visual? It's like a chasm. It's like this thing that all of a sudden you just like fall into, right? And the word that we use, that I use, that classical singers use is passaggio, which translates to passage. Very different energy to passage than break. Right? So number one, as we know, the words that we use to talk to ourselves around these things matters because we will create what we think. So number one, stop thinking of it as a break. You will continue to break it if you do. Start thinking of it as passaggio, as passage, moving through rather than like an interruption. A break is an interruption. Passage is moving through. So that's just some good language that will help. Second thing around that is if You're great above it and you're great below it. What that tells you, that's data. What that tells you is that you are changing something when you approach the transition. And this is super common. And this is the number one thing that makes changing registers hard for a lot of singers is that when you approach the moment of transition, either your anchor and your sail or both stops moving away from each other. Either because, number one, you get scared, and so as you're moving to that point, you brace yourself, right? And now with anchor and sail and that opposition not continuing to move, you've now created a situation where that continuation has now created the break because you've interrupted the flow of anchor and sail. Okay? The continuity that you want is created by your body being continuous. When that glitch happens, it's because sail has fallen or support has discontinued. So being like, you can really slow down if you want. And it's not about like the best exercise. Every exercise moves through your break, every single one. But what you can do is slow down when you get to that area and really siren into your opposition. So if you were doing whatever exercise, if you were doing like mi me ma, slow down, and as you siren down through the transition, I mean, you can even do it on a just a single siren, you know, like let's do it a little bit lower, like from here to the me, like slow down and really bring your awareness and follow your body so that you're continuing to move your anchor and your sail away from each other over the entire siren, and slow in that moment and pull, 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 and send. So you're me. Like I got back to chest and you didn't really hear when I did that because I was pull, 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 pull. Because in that moment, when you're going slow, as you get scared, you can feel that and go, nope, nope, I'm continuing to oppose anchor and sail. So that's something that you can play with. Does that make sense, Alexa?
Yes. Is there anything at all in the vocal cords that might be different in that area, or is it all strictly in your body with the support and
Right.
sail and anchor?
Right. So for women, when we move from head to chest, the approximation of the chords does not change. It's the full chord that approximates. Nothing changes when you move from head to chest for women. For men, when they move from falsetto to their modal voice, it's called falsetto for men because only the false folds are vibrating. It would be like only half the chord is vibrating. The entire fold is not vibrating. So for them, moving from falsetto to their modal voice is going from the use of only the false folds to the use of the full folds. But for us, we don't have falsetto. Women don't have falsetto. We have head voice and chest voice, but head voice and chest voice is our full modal voice. For men, they have falsetto and then they have head and chest. Head and chest are in their modal voice, falsetto is not. So for us, nothing physiological happens to the actual folds that's any different. If you're having trouble, it's because you're interrupting your support and your space.
So if I just focus on the support and the space, I will be able to hit those notes just as flawlessly and loudly and clearly as all my other notes, or is there other stuff involved that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of more detailed training involved in doing that. You know what I'm saying? But the concept that we talked about on the second day, which is when you change pitch, when you change registers, do not change your support and your resonant. Do not change your anchor and your sail. Your anchor and your sail are always moving away from each other. And what is the most common thing that happens to a lot of singers, which probably sounds like it's happening to you too, is that because that place has been problematic in the past, you get a little anxious about it, you get a little trepidatious about it, and so as you approach it, you take your foot off the gas, so to speak, and you interrupt the support and you interrupt the opposition that's going on without wanting to, without realizing it. But it's like, oh, here it comes, and you gently hit the brakes without even realizing it. And now you've created the quote break that you were scared of in the first place. And so it just all goes back to that: do not change your support and your opposition when you change pitch, when you change registers. Can you continue moving those two things away from each other, and then examining your mindset around it? Because you could be telling yourself to do that, but if you still have beliefs, limiting beliefs, expectations, expect it to be hard, expect it not to work, that are working you could be giving yourself the best direction in the world and your body won't do it because the mind is getting in the way. So it's looking at those two things. Cool. Good
Right.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. Okay, let's see. Oh, Gina was saying, just looked at your video on high notes, not sure I know how to apply it for myself. Okay, so Gina, when we talk about down to go up, what we're talking about is making sure that your support is always moving in that flex down and out towards your feet, towards your pelvic floor direction, regardless of if the note is going up. But the problem is, if we tell ourselves, if we keep thinking that the high note is up here, our body is going to still want to go up there. And so it pulls all of this that we want to be moving that way in support. If we think the high note is up here, it's really hard to not want your body to like push in and push up towards that note. And so we end up going like, if you can kind of see my support here on my tank top, like you can see me going like, ah, it's like, and it doesn't sound good. It doesn't feel good. And it's certainly not going to get me, a good, impactful performance, right? Because my body is going up to try to push me towards the pitch. Instead, I tell all of our singers, down to go up. The higher the note, the higher the pitch in your range, the lower you want to send that energy of support. Does that make sense, Gina? Is Gina still here? Yes, you are. Then you can tell me in the chat. Does that make sense, Gina? Just let me know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Of course. Yeah.
It wasn't so much the down to go up kind of thing. It's that soft palate thing you were mentioning on your video. I didn't understand that exactly because I haven't worked soft palate in years.
Okay.
Don't understand where the focus is or any of that.
Sure. Okay. So are you able to feel your soft palate? Like you can feel it with your tongue?
Yeah, barely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the part of your mouth, like if you get allergies and it gets all itchy in your throat, that gets like super itchy, that's your soft palate. It's the part that can you make yourself yawn? Oh, yeah, it's a Monday. We should be able to yawn.
Yeah. Now I see.
Yeah. So the top part of the yawn, that's your soft palate. Okay. When we yawn, we also depress the larynx. We don't want to do that when we sing. But the top part, right? So that idea of the smell, the brownies that we were talking about on Wednesday, can you breathe into a smile? Like you smell something really good? Yeah, do a nose breath. A nose breath. Smell it. Use your nose breath. So close your mouth and nose breath. Yeah. Do you feel your soft palate stretch between your ears when you think of something that smells really good and you smell, like I really do want you to imagine, like I put a plate of fresh brownies right in front of your nose and I really want you to imagine they smell really good and smell them.
I can barely feel it. I'm getting over a cold too.
But you felt it when you yawned, right?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So look, there's multiple ways to feel it. So if you felt it when you yawned, you know what that sensation feels like. Like it feels like your ears stretching and widening away from each other. It feels kind of like you've got like your molars like riding up into your brain, kind of. There's a lot of different ways that it might feel. So when you phonate, we want to be able to like pull on that. Sometimes I tell my singers it's like taking fish hooks and imagining, then I'm like pulling that feeling. Do you want to say, can you say for me, just kind of like on a chanting on whatever pitch you want, aha, and try to feel that high yawn place.
Oh,
Yes, that was good. That was it. What did you notice about that?
it's everything's so subtle.
That, yeah, that's okay, but you're starting to really pay attention to what things feel like. So, can you play with it in your head voice? Aha!
Ah,
Yes. So you're doing it. You are absolutely doing it.
okay.
Um, just making sure though that like even on the aha, as you finish the aha and you kind of siren down, that you don't drop that space. And so, what that can feel like, sound like, I'm going to exaggerate, is this ah! And everything goes, and it feels like it all closes back down your throat. So even though you might be sirening down in pitch on the aha, you're still feeling your fangs, your back molars, your ears like pulling up into your brain. Aha! You try?
Ah,
Yes! And by the way, and this is for you, Alexa. So, Gina, you just siren from head to chest, and there was no glitch, there was no break. It was really easy for you to get down the scale because you didn't drop your sail. You were pulling, pulling, pulling on it the entire time. And your support was there for you too, whether you realized it or not. That opposition showed up for you as you did that siren. So, what was there a feeling, a shape, a space, a sensation that you can sort of, clock onto to find this again in your own practice?
um, I guess it's more visualization.
Yeah.
Um, I just feel the top head, maybe 1/4 of my head. It's always rounded. It always feels rounded.
Yeah.
And it's from a lot of years of practicing like that without knowing what you were talking about. But
But
um,
now you can be conscious and intentional about like that feeling of that rounded feeling, just continuing to pull on that no matter what direction the pitch is going, no matter how many words that you're saying, no matter head voice, chest voice, that feeling that you just described, always present. Cool?
yeah, yeah, and like your video, you were talking about hitting the high notes. I always found that um, if I haven't done it in a long time, I'm always looking for that one note. When Smokey Robinson did "Ooh Baby Baby" back in the day, when he was real young and he was singing falsetto, he was always hitting a high G. Okay, well for me that's a high G. Anyway, and I'm going, now how in the hell am I supposed to get back to that if
So
I don't?
just find it on a siren first, making sure that you're anchoring your support and pulling your dome in the opposite direction. So can you do like a legit siren, like ambulance sound and go woo 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 woo? Uh-huh. So I don't think you have your original sound on because it cut out when you went into the higher part of your voice. But just tell me, I don't have to hear it, but just tell me, were you able to do that siren? Did it feel okay to you?
Oh, always.
Okay. So that's you being in your anchor and your sail. Okay. So if you can do that on the siren, then don't think about singing that note in the Smokey Robinson. Just think
Okay.
about sirening it, and your body will do the same exact thing. Because if you can siren it, you can sing it. But if you tell yourself to sing it, you're going to try to manipulate and get up to that note when you don't need to get up to anything, Gina. You just need to
Okay.
think siren, and your body will go into that anchor and sail that's there for you. Cool?
Okay. Think less and and just be more spontaneous.
Just give yourself the direction of trust that puts trust in your body. When you went to Siren just now, you trusted your body to do that, and it did what it needed to do.
Okay,
That's it. Yeah. Cool.
super. Thank you.
Okay, good. Let's see. Okay, Peter, what is best to clear your sinuses before singing if you feel congested? I don't know anything about that today, guys. Okay, so there are lots of different hacks and things and, singer remedies and things that you can play with. I mean, if you're somebody who likes to do nasal spray, you can do Afrin. The thing about that is like you can only do Afrin 3 days before you can't do it anymore because your body starts to get used to it. Like the pharmacists, they tell you that. So you can't just have to rely on that all the time. Some people, if you have a lot of congestion that's allergy related, you can do a Claritin, you can do an Allegra. The thing with that is not only does it dry up your sinuses, it dries everything up. And so it can be very drying for your vocal cords. So if you're going to do that, you have to hydrate, right? Do you know what a neti pot is, Peter? Have you played with a neti pot? So those of you who don't know what a neti pot is, it looks like a little genie bottle, like a little genie lamp or whatever, and it has like a
Yeah,
worm again. Yeah.
Amy
And
told me about it in
yeah.
a meeting.
And so
Yeah.
like for those of you who don't know what a neti pot is you just put you put saline solution in it, and
Hmm.
you put the one end up one nostril, and you just pour it in, and you keep your head back, and it flushes through your sinuses, and then you plug this sinus, and you go like this, and it comes out the other
I know,
side.
I saw the video and I'm like, I don't know.
So some people, like, first of all, it does work. Okay, it absolutely does work.
Yeah, I hear
However,
it does.
some people can tolerate it and some people can't because it's a
Mm,
very specific sensation. I personally, I can't.
mm,
Like I've never been able to. And I also know a lot of singers who swear by it and it doesn't bother them. So you just have to see, you know what I
mm.
mean? But the one thing I will tell you, if you're somebody who deals with a lot of congestion, the the thinner the mucus and the muck is, the faster it will either swallow down, flush down, move. And
Yeah.
so, like, hydrate. So, you
Yeah,
guys,
I've
like,
been doing that more. And
right.
Amy told me to not use, I used to drink a lot of caffeinated tea. So I'm getting away from that. Actually, before I sang, I had a black tea I used to drink that was caffeinated, and I don't do that anymore. So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think it's helping.
like caffeine, it depends on like how your body deals with it. Some people can do that,
Mm,
but like honestly, when we talk about hydrate, like really what we're just talking about is water. Just water.
yeah,
And
right. That's what I'm doing.
for those of us, so I posted about this like earlier on in the year. So like a normal, like I think this is 10 ounces, something like that. We need, like adults, we need something like eight, 8 ounces a day to stay hydrated.
Mm,
And I know for like a lot of people that can feel like a lot to have to do like 8 of these a
yeah.
day. So one of the things that I like to do, I don't have so this is actually a hot cup, which is why it's a little smaller, but I
Hmm.
have a 42-ounce Stanley, which I don't know if you guys know what a Stanley is. It has like a straw and whatever. I have a 42-ounce
Yeah.
Stanley. And so when I think, oh, I only have to drink 2 of those.
Mm,
Oh, well, that's like more manageable because it's bigger. I don't know.
yeah.
It's the same amount of water, but in my mind, that's like way more manageable. So you might just get something bigger and be like, let me just do 2 of these and like I'm good. But the more
Mm,
hydrated you are, the more viscous the mucus is, and the
yeah.
quicker it will flush,
Right. I'm finding that out. I am doing it. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm forcing myself, but
Yeah.
I'm starting to
And
get used to it.
it's just good for our bodies
Yeah, I
to
know. I know
be
that. I know.
hydrated.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, the other thing is also to know that like when you are congested, the way it sounds to you in your head is not what the sound sounds like out here.
Mm,
The sign, and so what you want to be careful of is just making sure that you're not, and this is for any of you when you're congested. Like if I had to sing a performance on this cold, I know enough that I'm paying attention to the feeling of the good sound the feeling of what my body is doing. I know that sweet spot of opposition like I know the back of my hand, because I know what that sweet spot is. So because when you don't, you're judging what the sound sounds like in your head, and because you're congested, what it sounds like in your head is not at all what it sounds like in reality. Number one. Number two, guys, what it sounds like in your head is never what it sounds like out here, ever. And so you don't want to be making all kinds of adjustments to the foundation of your support, of your anchor and your sail, to try to make it sound good inside your head when you're sick or congested or whatever. You're going to get into a lot more manipulations that are going to kick you off the efficiency of your support and your resonance. So that's another reason why really understanding the feeling of the good sound, the feeling, the sweet spot, the feeling of the correct efficient use of your body and your technique is so important, so that if I had to go sing a performance tonight, I could do that because I know the sweet spot of my voice. And even though in my head it sounds a little bit different to me, I'm not freaked out by that, because the feeling of how I'm using my body is exactly the same. And I know when I have that feeling, it's going to be a good sound out there to you, to the audience.
Okay.
So another reason to really get on your training. Get on my call calendar, Peter. Come on.
What's that?
I said, get on my call calendar. I said, come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you.
question. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So I saw, okay, so we did talk about mix already. Tatiana, are there exercises that help build support? Yes, everything that I taught you on Tuesday. So just go back and review. Do your hisses, do your lip trills. That's how we set the foundation of support. Yep, good reminder. Lisa, my vocal coach says to pinch my nose to check my placement of sound. He says sound should not be coming out of my nose at all. Is this true? Well, I don't know if that's true, because so let's do an experiment right now. So I'm gonna sing on my good technique, and then I'm gonna pinch my nose and see what happens. So this is me on my good technique, like not singing nasal for any effect or whatever. So yeah, it has no effect. So I guess that's true. If you do pinch your nose, nothing should happen. So I guess that is true. Thanks, Lisa. I learned something. I did not know that. Cool. Let's see. Javon, for those of us who need to save up for intensive program, do you have any daily practice tips, resource recommendations and stuff? So you guys, like, my YouTube channel has a ton of content. You can, search any specific thing on my YouTube channel. You could search breath support. There's a ton of, videos of me working with other singers on breath support, of me talking about tips of breath support. Like, there's a lot of gold there that you can mine your way through. The only thing about that is like, it can be kind of frustrating when you're watching videos for training, because you're getting a lot of concepts that you may intellectually understand, but you also have like no idea if you're actually implementing it right in your own body. So that can be a little bit frustrating, but that until and unless you have the ability to come in and work with the team, I would say, to just really be on your awareness. Because if you're doing tools, any of my tools, any teacher's tools really, and you still feel tension, or you still feel any kind of strain, or you're still getting a sound that you're losing your air or whatever, that's a little flag that like you're probably not implementing it correctly. So just to really be vigilant about that stuff. But yeah, there's a ton of content on my YouTube channel that you guys can engage with.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we answered the question, Alexa's question about difference in the chords. Marinol, how do you keep yourself from hurting your throat when using head voice? If your throat is hurting when you're using head voice, it's because one of two things is happening. You're trying to control your sound from either your throat, because you're trying to push yourself into that part of your register, and or you're not using your support. So if you are hurting yourself, guys, if anything hurts when you are singing, 99.9% of the time, it is because you are not engaging the proper support. So if that's happening to you, Marinelle, check your support. Make sure you are in your flex, okay? Not in contract and push. Okay. So thank you guys for all these awesome questions. I do see Jack has a hand raised. Jack, did you have a question?
Hi, Arden.
Hey, how are
First,
you?
thank you so much for doing this. This was
You're so
awesome.
welcome.
I
Yeah.
have a technical question and then like a philosophical question.
Great.
So the first one is a while back, not in this 7-day get together, but maybe 6 months ago, we were talking about the soft palate. You've touched on it a couple of times already today, but you had mentioned if the soft palate, the sail, let's call it, to aim more kind of at the front of the soft palate. Obviously, for operatic singing, it's different. And pop, we mentioned, you had mentioned today more of a teepee feeling. The last time you mentioned a raising, but you had just mentioned more of a aiming at the front. In terms of that, I know when you take a breath, a nose breath, or any breath, but certainly nose breath, your soft palate will raise a little bit. So that's helpful. And when we sing with emotion, right, and you're really connected to the song, oftentimes your technical things tend to fade away a little bit and you sound great and other good things happen to you. When I practice scales or whatever it is, I notice that I can keep my opposition pretty good and my breath support's pretty good. But with my soft palate, certainly when I sing, I want to try to figure out a way to focus there, but not have like any intrinsic muscles or extrinsic, I guess, whatever the word is, any strain or anything come in. I notice my molars separate a little bit, when I try to keep my palate up. And you mentioned the fish hooks pulling, and you used the word pull a couple of times. Is there a way other than just time and grade to keep that soft palate up and aim there without any strain?
Yes. So the strain is 9 times out of 10 indicative of your support not being consistent. And the support is the first thing that you always need to be checking. You always need to train support first, because without that grounded consistency, your body is not going to feel completely comfortable to really go where you need to go up here. Mm-hmm. And so if you feel tension here, it's likely because you're changing your support or interrupting your support or not being consistent about that consistent gentle flow down through your lower abs over the course of the phrase. And so this is coming in to compensate. And when this stuff comes in to compensate, like scalene muscles which connect through jaw, could be jaw starts to grab. And when jaw starts to grab, then it will be harder to feel that stretch.
I totally agree with you with the support, 100%. Is there a way for us to think about the soft palate? Because right now, when you're new, let's just say, yeah, you actually really have to be focusing, like you mentioned, yawning. And, I've been at this quite a while, so I think about it. But for some reason with the soft palate, I really have to be super conscious of it. And when you're singing, obviously you don't want to be. When you're practicing, you need to be. But is there a way to just is there something to be thinking about so it starts to take on a life of its own and I don't have to think about it as much?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about how do I create a muscle memory?
Yes.
Right. And the way that we create a muscle memory is so this is what I tell the singers all the time in the program. It's like, what is the quarter that's getting you the gumball? What is the thought, the intention that you're putting in that gets you the outcome? And then you have to train that thought. Okay.
I just think about actually raising it, like whether it's a partial yawn or the internal breathe, or actually separating my back molars a little bit. Those are like my main things. And I guess if I just keep at it long enough, you think it'll stay up?
Yes and no. It depends. Okay. So the best way that I know is, so let's say you're doing whatever vocal exercise, and at each time you go up in the next key and the next key, right? And you're breathing in between for the next key. Breathe in that intention. So let's say the intention is, instead of, what was the thing you were saying? Keep it up, keep it up. Is that what you were saying you usually tell yourself?
It's either my back molars, or I breathe in a nose breath, or I just think like a very partial, soft yawn. Something, we can all think about it and keep it up. But it's not so much when I'm practicing, Arden. I'm very good at intention like that. But when I'm singing, I'm focusing on other things. And it's just, I feel like I don't know if I'm not aware of it or if I'm just not able to. I noticed that for the breathing, I can keep that out, and that kind of has a life of its own. That the outward lean, but I'm not able to do that with my palate as easily.
Okay. So, and is that when you said when I'm singing? So does that mean when you're performing, or does that mean when you're practicing, but you're just going into your repertoire?
Yeah, not scales, not practicing, when I'm actually just singing songs with the guitar or whatever, and I'm practicing my songs. And sometimes when I'm practicing, then I'll let go of everything, and I won't think of anything technical, so I can just let it flow. But I notice when I'm doing scales and practicing, I can think about the palette more. But when I'm playing and doing a song, my breath support seems to be better, but my palette, I feel like, does not stay up as much. And you're saying that maybe just focus more on the breath support and it should stay up more?
Maybe.
Okay.
So because oftentimes, so it can be that. It can be. It may not be. So you want, I mean, if you feel like your support is, like, obviously, like, not hearing you and not having to spend time with getting to know your voice,
Right.
hard to totally say. But from what you're telling me, if you feel like your support is really solid, then there shouldn't be any reason that you can't stay in that high shape and space if you've conditioned it. Okay? So
Right.
it's a conditioning thing, it's a muscle memory thing. Now,
And that's
said,
what I'm working on. I just constantly think about it all the time when I'm singing, and hoping that over time, just to draw a quick golf analogy, I teach golf at a very high level, and I'm a scratch golfer and play. And it's like golf, you have to learn all this stuff. And then in order to play, you have to kind of unlearn it or not think about it. And it's like muscle memory. You just do it and do it and do it. And then after a while, it will stay. So I'm trying to do that with my soft palate more.
This is the same,
yeah.
But it's also it's just being intentional about it when you practice the song, when you go into the song. So in the same way that you would be, like you said, breathing into the space between your ears and really feeling that tilt and telling yourself to do that, me, me, ma, and you give yourself that direction as you breathe in. Me, me, ma. And then you give yourself that direction as you breathe in again, and you pull on it. When you
do it, whether it's this and the smile with the cheekbones.
But what I'm saying is, if it's not happening when you play your songs, you need to slow your roll when you play your songs and treat your song as if it was a vocal exercise. So whatever, let's say you were doing Amazing Grace. Breathe in. Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound.
Yeah. Okay. I definitely do that. So you're enforcing everything that I already thought. So I'm just going to keep at it, and in time it'll happen. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The philosophical.
And you have that data being a golfer to know that if you do condition that, it will eventually stay. As long as there's not a mindset weed that is preventing you from doing that. That's my
Agreed. Is there anything, just before we move on to the philosophical question, whether it's the expanding the back molars or the breathing through the nose or the parachute or the fish hooks pulling, is there anything else you can give me to be thinking about? Because I can raise my soft palate anytime I want, and I can think about the front of my palate if I want to focus. But is there any other little gem or something of a way to, like, think about this, Jack, or think about that? Something, another.
Sometimes what can make a difference for our singers is like feeling your soft palate and your hard palate pulling up off your teeth and riding into your brain. You could play with that one.
All right. I'll work on it. So the philosophical one is, you spent a lot of time and a lot of money. Let's put the money aside for a second and just talk about the time, basically teaching yourself. Now, you had teachers and vocal coaches over the years, but you spent a lot of time on yourself. Was there, I don't want to say an aha moment because it probably came in waves of little aha moments, but where you found your unique sound, where the harmonics seemed to come into alignment and you really found a pleasing sound? I'm in the process now of, I probably have like 50 covers, and I'm trying to get away from, sounding like each different person and just have my own sound. And you can record yourself and listen back, and that's great. And we all hear ourselves on the old recording answering machines, and you're like, I can't believe I sound like that. But is there a way to recognize the most pleasing harmonic coordination? So we kind of say, like, if you heard me sing, you're like, wait, Jack, right there, what were you doing right there? That, just try to maintain that coordination. You had a forward presence, you had this, that, and everything. But when it's just me, I mean, obviously a coach is the best way to go about it. But on my own, is there a way to kind of recognize whether it's feeling it or hearing it? Like, oh yeah, and it's happening for me. It's just slowly, and I'm for the journey. But
yeah, no, I get what you're asking. And so, first of all, just for context,
yeah,
I definitely did not teach myself. For context, I synthesized on my own, meaning there was a lot of things that were picked up from these different places that were the things that then I had to put together as
that's what I meant. I didn't mean you sat in a cave and taught yourself. I meant like, I spent like 8 years on YouTube videos of like the top 20 instructors that I found and parsed through all the little things that overlap.
It was when teachers were able to say to me, to mirror back to me, like what you just said, when the teacher goes, what,
right.
So that I had an outside reference,
right,
or an internal experience,
right? Is there any way to go ahead? Sorry.
I mean, no.
I know.
But here's why, which is that, like, in the same way that, like, you can't think your way out of a thinking problem. The way that we perceive and the way that our habits have allowed us to experience our bodies and stuff. Most of us, when we experience something new, we assume that it's wrong and that it's bad. I can't tell you how many times I've been in class with a singer and I'm like, that, yes, that. And she's like, wait, that? I thought that was wrong because it was too easy.
Right.
First of all, I've heard that all the time, which, by the way, is a mindset thing, limiting belief. It couldn't possibly be right if it feels too good or if it's too easy, right? But, like, that's another ball of wax, right? But
well, I record myself, Arden, and I know enough about the voice, and I've been listening to enough and have been down the road enough to be able to recognize when I listen back, because obviously we hear differently.
I know, but you're not in the moment with your body. You're far enough removed from it that it can be hard to remember what was I feeling in that moment? What was my body doing in that moment? What was I thinking? What was my mind doing in that moment? Right.
Right.
So it's hard to kind of parse that out on your own. But I will say, in answer to the second part of your question, which was there like a breakthrough moment or whatever? No, but what has constantly hit me again and again and again over the years is that when I step into my worth and I give myself permission to experiment, when I give myself permission to make a bad sound,
I do tons of it.
Then that's usually when my body aligns, the technique that I otherwise know comes forth, and it is the freest, the best, the most powerful, the most authentic, you name it.
Right. Yeah. Right. I totally agree with that. Be free, make weird sounds. So, okay. So for you
to not be perfect.
There was more that the feedback from people, whether it was harmonically or the pleasing sound, where they were saying, yeah, do that. That sounds great. It wasn't you on your own so much putting in the time and grade or recording yourself and listening back and being like, ooh, yeah, that sounded really good. And I was using more mask, or I was using whatever. Little bit of both?
You do that, but you don't always know in the moment what it was that you were doing. So it can be kind of frustrating to go that route. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah, it
mean?
is.
So,
It is. But
but
it's a
yeah, just
journey.
keep it up, just
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Arden.
So,
I appreciate your
yeah,
help. That
no,
was great.
absolutely. I see you guys, we have a lot of more questions in the chat. We are coming up towards the end of our time, and I there was a question that I forgot to address that somebody asked about the program that I want to make sure that I address, and then I'm happy to stay a little bit to answer more. But there was a few of you who asked, can I train in the intensive program if I don't enroll right now? Like, are there only certain time windows which we can join? Like, you start the program in certain dates and they run, or can I think about it and can I enroll at a later time? So, first of all, the program is rolling. So you could literally be in the start with us, be in class with us tomorrow if you wanted to. You could start 3 weeks from now. You could start 3 months from now. Like, the program is rolling. So you can absolutely come in and do the program at any time. There's no like window, right? However, and by the way, like, when you come in like that, you can come in, but you're coming in at the 9K usual tuition though, versus like the 7K discount that we offer until, tonight. Okay. But what I also want you guys to get is that, like, can I think about it? Yeah, but indecision is also a decision. Not deciding is also a decision. Like, thinking about it in terms of mindset, like, what's it costing you the longer you wait to decide to get help? Time, money that you're not making on the gigs you're not performing, opportunities that you're not getting, purpose that you're not fulfilling, right? And so it's like, how much more info do you need to decide that you want to be on big stages, doing what you love every day? So just get, guys, that not deciding is deciding that you're okay with more of the same. And you can follow me on social, on Instagram, on YouTube. You can come work with us at any time. You can continue to engage with me, and I will continue to love on you with all my free content. And that doesn't cost me anything, but it does cost you. Get that? Like, and the question that might help you get clear is, are you willing to settle for more of those costs? More auditions where you don't get into the callbacks and they go with the other guy, being passed over yet again, having to explain to your boyfriend, your partner, your spouse who's so burnt out at work because they're still supporting your dreams and you're not breaking through. Like, more time attached to your side job because you're not able to book great paying gigs, or you can't fill a 200 seat club at $50 a ticket in multiple cities. How hard it is juggling everything, which leaves you less time for yourself, less time for your family, and most importantly, less time for your music. And so the money you are not making is a cost to you. And the more time that you spend in your blocks not knowing how to go out there and make an impact that brings the career you want, guys, impact equals income. Those of you who want to do this professionally, who are sick and tired of being stuck at those side jobs, who want to be out there on big stages, Finn, getting that equity gig, come on. Impact equals income. The bigger the impact, the bigger the income. You want a big league career with a big league paycheck, then you got to learn how to make a bigger impact. It's that simple. And the longer that you wait to understand and fix the things that are sabotaging your impact, you guys, you cannot get that time back. You can't. So are you willing to settle for those costs? And if the answer is yes, that's okay. Then it's not the right time for you. And I will still love on you in our free group and with all my free content. But if the answer is no, and you're not willing to continue to settle for any more of the same, you want big shifts and you're tired of waiting for them, and you want results like you heard people talk about, like Darlene talked about, like Amy talked about. Guys, there is no other approach that is this effective. When you train with me, when you train with my team, I will hold you to everything that you have told me you wanted. I will light a firecracker under your ass. Ask Amy. And you get a hands-on approach. You get a results-based approach that works with you to implement the techniques and the tools that you need next. That mirror that we were just talking about. We're not just leaving you hanging in the wind to figure it out on your own. This is a long-term sustainable approach. This is not like the fad of the day. Because it works because you have a holistic 360 support system to help you embody the skill set you need the mindset you need, and the artistry that you tap into that creates bulletproof singers, unstoppable singers. So as we wrap up the masterclass series, if you want that tuition discount and the other bonuses, get on my calendar for a discovery call. Like those of you who have been so engaged all week, Jacqueline, Michael, Finn, Holly, Nancy, I see you. Alexa, I see you. Get on my call calendar. If you book that call today, even if we don't talk until later on the week, you will still get the $2,000 discount if you enroll, but you have to get on my calendar today and let's talk it through. Let's talk about why you're holding back. Let's talk about what needs to happen. And if there are financial circumstances and you just absolutely, you can't get financing, you're not willing to get resourceful, then don't get on my calendar. But if you're willing to get resourceful and you're willing to get creative, like, okay, let's talk it out. Book that discovery call. And again, if you already know this is the right opportunity for you, then go to the link with the program information, look at the payment options. You can enroll right now. You can literally be in class with us tomorrow. Okay. So it has been an amazing week to spend with you guys, watching you have these light bulb moments and these aha moments. Let me look at my schedule right now to see if I can stay on a little bit to answer a few more of your questions. Hang on one second. Let me look and see what. Okay, I actually have a 4 o'clock, so we are not going to be able to do that. However, if there were questions that you put in the chat that you did not get answers to, we have a thread going in the Pro Singer Success Collective group, in the Facebook group, that were questions for the Q&A today. Just add your questions to the thread and I will do my best to answer them so that you can make sure that you are supported. All right. Be sure to grab the replays and download the homework from the Masterclass workbook before they go away at midnight tonight after the workshop. Stay active in the Facebook group. I will continue to see you guys in there. And you guys, work your tools, get the help that you need. My team and I are here. Get on my call calendar, take care of your enrollments, and I will see you in class. All right, guys. Mwah! It's been a pleasure. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye.
You're welcome.